Hello and welcome everybody to today's panel on cybersecurity. So to introduce myself, I'm Marko Hölbl. I'm from the University of Maribor, Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and I'll be the moderator of today's panel. And I'm the one who is standing between you and going home. But I'm sure that you will not regret that you are part of this panel, and I'm sure that we'll have an interesting discussion with all our panelists. Let me first briefly introduce the topic. So we have an interconnected world where cybersecurity is becoming more and more important since it's one of the main defining pillars of modern defense. Now again, the different domains somehow interlinked with each other, and the boundaries between these domains are disappearing. We now have warfare in land, seas, space, air, and of course cyberspace. Technology evolves, and so do threats. So we have different kind of cyber conflicts, hybrid conflicts, state-sponsored operations, AI-driven attacks, of course, and of course emerging technologies from the domain of, for instance, of quantum computing. In this light, our panel will bring together some of the leading experts who will explore different aspects of cybersecurity, cyber warfare, electronic warfare, and capabilities and transformation, which transforms modern defense and military operations and redefines the digital battlefield. Let me introduce our speakers. So first of all, I would like to introduce Andrea Pompili, who is the Chief Scientific Officer at Cybergate. He will open his talk with the role of cybersecurity in modern defense strategies and show how integrated cyber and electronic warfare capabilities are transforming modern military operations and redefining the digital battlefield. Next, we will hear from Aida Vodlan from the Ministry of Defense and Mihail Nagel from the cybersecurity section of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Slovenia. They will talk about the present Slovenia's research and development activities within the European defense frameworks, including participation on different kind of funding schemes like European Defense Fund, EDA, CapTech, Cyber, and other kind of funding schemes. And they will focus on how collaboration and technological sovereignty strengthens our nation's cyber defense capabilities. Then we'll continue with Mr. Milan Gabor, founder and CEO of Viris, which is a company in Slovenia, who will give us an overview of the current cyber threat landscape. He will highlight the importance of rapid escalation of cybercrime, hybrid attacks, and AI-powered offense tactics as they are reshaping the global security environment. Next, we'll be following Dr. Matej Rabzl from the University of Ljubljana, the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, the Laboratory of Telecommunications, who will discuss opportunities for dual-use solutions in cybersecurity, showing how technology originally developed for the commercial sector can be applied to the cyber defense sector. And finally, Peter Čefrin, CTO of Smartcom, and Mr. Egon Mlinarić from the Government Office for the Protection of Classified Information, hopefully I translated this correctly, will address cybersecurity in the age of quantum computing, showing how post-quantum encryption and Slovenia's role as a NATO crypto-producing nation will ensure secure communication in the coming quantum era. Today's panel will be organized as follows. First of all, I will ask the panelists to have a short presentation on their specific topics. Later on, panel discussion will follow, in which all of you, the audience, are also warmly welcome to ask questions, to participate. So later on, you will have the possibility to ask interesting questions or discuss with the panelists. And now let's start, and I'll first ask to the stage Mr. Andrea Pompili to give his talk, please.
That is work. Thank you very much. First of all, I don't want to sell you anything, so I'm not here to sell something. Second, my name is Andrea Pompili. It's not a female name, but it's a male name, but in Italy it works in this way. First of all, we will start from this concept. This is an important concept. I don't know if you are in use with these people. This people is, I think, 10,000 years ago, written a book regarding how you can do war. The good of this is that he said in the past that if you know yourself and if you know the enemy, you can win the battle. If you know the enemy and don't know yourself, you will lose the battle. If you know yourself and not the enemy, probably you can go fair. So the real concept here that I want to show to you is that why cyber has become a game changer and what about cyber we have to take care. That's the point. So we will show how the world has changed, how the battlefield has changed. You know, everyone, that everything is based on these 4 domains. Then comes cyber in town. I say here that we have 2 concepts in the same slide, the battlefield and the domain. For example, talking about cyber, internet is the battlefield, where you do the battle. You have ransomware, you have attacks, whatever. This is the battlefield. The domain is when you want to reach superiority. So this means that it's something that regards military forces that fight one each other. You have a winner, you are a loser, and you need to have tools, you have forces, you have capabilities that you have to manage together. What we will talk in this speech is about the domain. So cyber domain comes from this concept. This comes from 1999. Is the Chinese way to see the battle. It's called a total warfare. It's a very simple concept. If I need to do a war against some other, I need to fight in all the domains in the same time. So there will not exist an airborne mission, a naval mission, a land mission, but in the same time, I generate multiple missions that needs to work together. This comes in a concept that is called integrated warfare. This means that I have all the domains, and then I have that everyone should to move according to a specific course of action, specific role of engagements or whatever, in the same time to support the mission. So this means that cyber, in this case, and for this reason I talked to you about cyber as a domain, this means that you have cyber missions that are connected to airborne missions, to naval missions, to land missions, to whatever. And all this means this need to be coordinated using different operations. This is what happens in the battlefield. So imagine how much things you have in the same time, how much elements you have to coordinate, how much things. For this reason, currently, there is a huge of work for what regards the common operational picture or joint common operational picture, because the commander needs to have a view of all the domains in the same time and understand if a mission can abort because you have another mission that fails. And the cyber missions are part of the overall picture that you have to manage. So this means that currently the concept of knows what's the order of battle of the enemy and what is the situation of my forces is very important. And here comes a big problem, because if you have an attack that happens in all the domains in the same time, this means that you cannot check everything or design everything to defend yourself simply waiting for the enemy. From the cyber point of view, you will lose the battle, because if you wait that you defend your network, you defend your data, you defend everything, as happens in the usual ICT domain, data centers, things like this, it's a problem because you have an attack that is also a physical attack. So if you have 3 data centers, but I destroy your 3 data centers and you don't have the data, this is the game changer. This happened in Ukraine 2 months before the attack of the Russian. They decided at the government level to say this point, all our data could be in another place that can be cloud. So they signed a specific agreement, a specific decree that told to them that they can bring their data in another place. And what they did? Amazon. They bring 2 months before all their data, all their critical data in Amazon, and they used Starlink to communicate. So there are some pictures from the real world, so that when the Russian attacked the country, all their data are in safe, because are in a different place. What happened? In an integrated warfare, when they attacked, the data is not in the place where the warfare is. That's the point. You have the people that are responsible for the processes. You have all the processes that are alive. But the data and all that is related to the data is in another place. So Starlink was the game changer. Amazon is the game changer. Here you can see they got also a prize from Amazon because they use it very well, their services and so on. Now, this means that when a new kind of warfare, a total warfare happens, this is the only way you can survive in most of the case. Now, here comes a problem. And here is the game changer for the cyber point of view. You will trust Amazon about your data. You will trust Starlink about your data. And that's the point. This is what's happening today. Israelis are better than us on this, and just started on this a lot of time ago. The problem is how I can train models if I don't have data centers. How I can use US data centers to train my models and avoid to exchange my information with the others. They work in what is called the secure multi-party computation. I don't explain what happens, but what does it mean. But the concept is 10 years ago, they started using Amazon services to train their models using this kind of approach so that they can avoid to spend tons of money on supercomputers, on super elements, on whatever. They are simply using something that already exists, changing the game with technologies and with elements that can support this. Another point is homomorphic encryption. I don't trust very much homomorphic encryption because it's very good, but the problem is that for 1 byte, you can have 10 gigabytes of data. That's the point how it works. Because the problem is how you manage the data next. And homomorphic encryption is very good for sums, for subtractions, maybe, for multiplications, but I don't know, for things complex, like, I don't know, integrals or things like this. Then another important thing is zero-knowledge proofs. This is an academic way to tell us about something that is called blockchain. This means that you have something that is managed in this way. I have something that I need to check if it's true or false. And I ask to someone else, is it true or false? And I trust these other people. This is what happens with blockchains. You say, is this transaction true or false? And they say, yes. And I trust this, because the model that has been created managed this for us. Another is post-quantum cryptography. I think that we have a speech on this, just because, obviously, there is a problem that currently Chinese people are managing. I store data today because I will decrypt later. So there is a problem with frozen data, call it this way, because they are collecting encrypted concepts, encrypted things, and so on, because with quantum computer, you can break elliptic curves, you can break RSA, you can break everything that is currently based on asymmetric encryption. The real issue is, and this is a joke that I can do with you, I had the problem with the police that take all my computers 15 years ago. Then they give back what they have taken at the time last year. I understood that everything that was in that computer was useless at the time. So in 15 years, everything that has been stored there is not useless anymore. So the real problem is, what are the data that if they are being decrypted after 10 years, because we're talking about quantum computers, we're talking about 10 years, 20 years, should be very important, and concentrate on that kind of data. Currently, the problem is post-quantum computing. Okay, this is a problem. Let's solve it. The problem is where you have to solve it, because otherwise it's not cheaper. That's the point. Going ahead, we are talking about total warfare, but there is another point that is necessary to be taken care, that is called hybrid warfare. In 2001, it's called asymmetric warfare, so we changed the name. The name has been done by Frank Hoffman in 2007. The first example of hybrid warfare is the Twin Towers attack. The use of an airplane as a bomb. That's the point. So the concept is I have that my enemy doesn't use usual forces, tanks, airplanes, whatever, but uses something that is a common approach to do the battle. That's the point. And I don't expect this. No one expected that an airplane can be used as a bomb against a palace. That's the point. The concept of asymmetric warfare or hybrid warfare comes from this point. The usual warfare, you have that the enemy try to defeat the military force. So you have a direct battle between the two and try to influence the government. The people is not part of the battle, but simply the effect that the enemy wants to do is to isolate them from the conflict, because you don't have people that helps you, for example, on the factories or things like this. But everything is limited to defeat the military and influence the government. In an hybrid warfare or asymmetric warfare, everything's changed. The battle is again against the population. Psyops. I switch off the energy. I switch off things. I generate a lot of troubles in your personal life. In this case, what I can have as an effect is I road support to the military forces, to the government. The idea of hybrid warfare is to make the military forces irrelevant in the battlefield. So you can have the most powerful power in the heart, on land, on air, or whatever, but you don't have support. And I win the battle in this way. This is a very complex battle because currently this is helped by this concept. I don't know if you read this book. This book talks about a concept that in 2030 we will have the fusion of the physical and digital worlds. What this means? That we will have a computer every square meter in the earth. So this means that cyber physical systems, because we call this in this way, we call them OT network, IoT network, IoMT network. Now there is a name for everything that is connected to the internet, is connected to the cyber physical systems. We will have a cyber physical systems every square meter. And the point of this is that you can manage things like this. Now, this is not a cyber attack, as you know. This is what has been done against Hezbollah by the Israeli forces with the pager that they have used. It is a supply chain attack. It's not cyber because they simply put a bomb inside the pager and do this in this way. But imagine that if you have one computer every square meter and you can put the same things and have a command control system that can check for this, what can be the effect in terms of the physical world. But don't talk about what happens respect to the civil world. Let's talk about military. Do you think that military forces are affected by this point, that this concept? Yes, it's called drones. What's happening today is that you have a lot of cyber physical systems in land, in air, underwater, whatever, that are connected together and that works in the battlefield. And all these items can be attacked too. And the problem is worse and worse because, again, talking about what happened in Ukraine, what they did in the beginning, they started with like Raptors or things like this. So elements that cost a lot of money. What was the game changer is to use COTS in the battle. They are using these small drones. This is an example of an action that Ukrainian forces do against the Russian bombers. So with elements that cost, I don't know, $2,000 or less, they destroyed an entire army simply using them as bombs, controlled by people. Now, the big issue of this is that, because this is the big changer, is that you can do the battle with things that are very cheap, that can be used, that can be reused. Because imagine if you have an airplane and someone destroys your airplane. You can have a big trouble because an airplane costs $1 billion, while a drone of 2,000 Ks, maybe, you can destroy whatever, launch. Now, here comes a problem on this. Because they are COTS, they are not manufactured according to the processes that are in use in the military forces. Because you know that you have common criteria or you have accreditation or things like this. This has been created by people that brings together some COTS element and give it to you. Now, the big issue is because I will use this, how can I be sure that no one put something inside? And here comes the supply chain problem. Supply chain problems means that I need to take in care that I use elements that I cannot trust inside the system that needs to be trusted. And here comes another problem for what regards cyber. How I can use things that I cannot trust in a system that I need to trust. And there are some research projects on this, also in IDA, something like this, but this is another point that we need to take in care. Finally, we have the concept of autonomy. because I have tons of drones. These drones need to be integrated one each other, and needs to do the battle and so on. I need autonomy because no one can control 1,000 drones in the same time. So I need to move from human-operated to highly autonomous system, agentic AI, whatever. This is the future for everything. It's not cyber anymore. Becomes cyber if we think about the battlefield. So the concept is, I have cyber threats, someone that try to attack, and my system needs to be agile to understand that I am under attack and respond to the attack. That's the point. So there is a concept where autonomy is linked to cybersecurity. If you want autonomy, you need to have an autonomous cybersecurity system that needs to understand what's the threat, understand the risk, and the risk is related to the mission, and react autonomously to maintain, this is called the resilience, to maintain the mission. Now, the real problem is that we need to maintain the mission at the cyber level, not at the mission level. So the concept is how the mission can explain to myself that I am a cyber expert, what I have to do, what the agentic AI should to decide regarding this, how the decision support the mission. This is the big problem. So it's a data model problem, it's an artificial intelligence problem, it's a technology problem. And everything is here. That's the future for what regards the battle. It's called combat cloud. We are talking about IoT, Internet of Battle Things, another buzzword for this. That everything means that the edge becomes the most important thing in the battle. You don't have a cloud-based, a centralized-based concept, but you have that the data move, the algorithm moves to the data. This means that all these elements that are connected using the network that is a cloud in terms of elements connected using the same network needs to collaborate, cooperate to generate knowledge, to generate support for the decision. And here is very important also the communication part, because you need, for example, we are talking about 5G ad hoc networks or things like this. You need to have that everything needs to be connected. You need to have digital twins because you need to test everything before doing the battle, and this needs to be automated again. So you have here in the same picture the problem of the technology that we will use to connect everything in the battlefield, that we need to have algorithms that needs to be distributed at the edge level, and that you need to have autonomy for everything together. That's the future. There are a lot of works on this, but this is not enough, because we have also this concept. If you only defend yourself from the cyber point of view, probably you will lose. Because you can defend if the attacker attack. There will be one time a stupid people that opens a door and you will be destroyed. So this is, for example, how the Chinese and the Russian works for what regards cyber. Means the first which who attacks 2 times. That's the point. So this means that you need also to have the offensive capability that you can use because you are attacked, is a deterrent, or as a deterrence model. So this means I attack you not because I want to create, for example, what happened in the Black Sea against the Ukrainian in 2014. Yes, it was done in this way. They switched off the power of all the country, but just to show that they can do this. Obviously, this capability is more complex. You need to have a lot of things. While for protection, you have different kind of strategies. You have proven approach and so on. For what regards offensive, you have only blah, blah, blah. People that talks, that say, I can break this, I can break that, and so on. I can explain to you that break something in the military world for a mission. So don't say, I have been inside, but I want to stop the engine of a vessel, for example, or I want to stop a car or whatever. It's not so easy. And here means that you need to have all these capabilities, all these tools that currently no one has except the Israeli. And let's finish my talk with this. The problem is that when putting everything together, there is a game changer that we currently don't have in Europe. That is the ecosystem that supports all these initiatives. I talked about the cyber of the future, but the real problem, how we can build the cyber of the future. This is how Israel has organized from 30 years their work. They have the higher education, the academia, that creates people, and the teachers comes from the armed forces or comes from the industry. Then the best in town began working in the military forces because they are being forced to work for 2 years in the military forces, and they are employed on real operations. So they start working on this. Then you have the industry that is collaborating on this, that is funded by the government, and you have a sort of ecosystems with everyone is connected in some way. Just to give you an example, they have a unit that is called 8200 that is composed only by people of 18 to 21 years old. The commander, the platoon, whatever. So this means young people all together doing real military things for the intelligence part. And they started doing this 20 years ago. So this is, in my opinion, this is my humble opinion, what currently lacks for what regards cybersecurity. Otherwise, you will have the industry that talks about products. You can have the government that talks about scientific things because they say, oh, Israelis are better. Israelis are better. Yes, I know that are better, but because we don't have the capability now. And you have the academia that is isolated by this. I think that needs to be academia working with the industry, working with the government, and create an ecosystem that works on this. And that's the future in myself of what you can do, and this is enough. I don't know if there are, I suppose that in the last...
For the nice talk and the interesting topics you have opened up. I would suggest that we have, at the end, we have a panel with all the panelists on stage, and then you have time to ask questions. So if you have any questions, please note them down so you don't forget them, and then you can ask them later. So the next speaker would be Mrs. Aida Bodlan, who will present from the Ministry of Defense, who will be presenting some initiatives related to cyber defense capabilities strengthening. So please.
Okay, thank you very much for presentation, and thank you for the first presentation because I will take many points that you already told us, especially because you really dig into the cyber defense, not only cyber. So there are two photos here. The first one on the left, I asked AI to use the address of my presentation and make a photo. So what you can see, if I don't use military, it will be obvious that military is not existing in the scientific research for Slovenian. What I will focus today is really present you how you can enter cyber defense, R&D mostly, and R&D of course, at the European, but also I will present some NATO and national opportunities for the industry. I will present you the fact that Slovenian industry and Slovenian MOD with armed forces is already very, very involved in European and NATO level, the projects and programs. And at the end, I will present a few of the obstacles. I believe we will discuss them at the end even more. So I will start with NATO Diana. It's a defense innovation accelerator. Every year they have a call. It just closed up, but it will be again next year. What we have seen in the last 2 years when NATO Diana started is that their program is really best if you're entering into defense for the first time. It is meant for the companies who already have solutions in the civil market. Either cyber is one of the topics, but there are many more. So if you don't have any experiences with the military system, with the defense industry, this is really a way to go through. Here at the booth in Hall D, you can see the Slovenian company Biosistemica, who was the first Slovenian company successful in NATO Diana, and their solution is not cyber, but in a way it's IT. They're using actually DNA to save the data. So I really propose to you to visit them and see the disruptive technologies we are dealing with. Oh, sorry. Okay, to go more on EU level. level, European Defence Fund, it's larger in financing. It's European Commission has a call every year. Also, it closed last week, but it will repeat every year until 2027, and we are already preparing a new program. Every year, there's more than €1 billion for research and development projects. For cyber, this year only, it was 54 million euros. So we are having national and national information days. Here are already the dates for the next year, but what we are really inviting are the info days in Brussels, where you can do the matchmaking. PESCO, another European way of cooperation, it is more meant for the member states. Industry by itself is normally not that involved. I put it down one of the projects Slovenia is participating in a cyber. We will also be leading the response teams next year. So it is one of the most important PESCO projects for us. And to actually a little bit explain when I say we are doing something as MOD in the cyber area, who is doing this. So we have a cybersecurity center at the MOD. There is structured by the operations center and the cyber range that was built up in 2023. It is not working only on the national levels. We have courses for public sector at the moment, individual or group training, but what's also very important is that we are working on bilateral level. So here is an example. We are with Croatia, one of the first EU and NATO countries that implement a federation of cyber training sites. So we were having exercise this year in Slovenia, and we will have it next year in Croatia. And I put down an email because one of the problems we are dealing is that we are always looking for experts. So if you're looking for a new job, please come and join us. And I will end with the European Defence Agency. My colleague Mihail will present it a little bit more. So European Defence Agency is an international agency. Also, all member states of European Union are collaborating. You can see we have one of the directors that is really focused on the R&T. And there are 15 CAPTECs, capability technological groups. You can see one is really focused on the cyber, and Andrei is industry reporter of it. But you have this cross-CAPTECs activities as well. So you can see, you can find cyber topics in IT, in information CAPTEC, also in simulation. So we are really trying to get together. And what actually is a CAPTEC? So the second one here at the top, you can see, at the bottom, you can see, every CAPTEC has a national representative. It is coming from the MOD or armed forces. He's called CNC. And then we have governmental and non-governmental experts. And that is you. So the industry and research organizations can join CAPTECs. Our CNC has to invite them. And the main point, there are two main points, two main goals of the CAPTECs. One is making projects. My colleagues will present a few of them later on. But the other is also to get together. It is a networking. A lot of EDF projects were actually built here because people met, discussed the ideas, and for EDF you need a consortium. So it is the best way to get introduced, because you have to know that at the end of the day, defense industry, it is opening, but still it is one of the closest industry. So I will finish because I think I don't have enough time. We are doing research projects for last 3 years, really more involved at the national and international level. You can hear a lot about the dual use. I pointed a few of projects that were made in the past for military. Nobody was discussing dual use, but I'm sure you're all using most of it. The internet, duct tape, super glue, even aviator glasses. So what we are doing in EDA, CapTex, which we will focus on later on, we're really focusing on military defense R&D projects. We are looking what the military is needing. So to end up, I wrote down a quote from the American president in 1963. He had a speech in West Berlin, and when we are thinking about doing the projects, why we are doing them. Yes, for the military, but if we look broader, it is for democracy. Our goal is to defend democracy, and I think Andrei really put it very well. We are facing the enemy who is using different methods than we are, so we have to be brighter and we have to really collaborate. So we as MOD are inviting more Slovenian industry to get involved in cyber defense, to cooperate at the European level and also national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Aida, for this interesting presentation. Next, I will invite Mr. Michael Nagel from the Chamber of Cybersecurity at the Chamber of Commerce of Slovenia.
Dear guests, during the next few minutes, I would like to explain the role of cybersecurity section within the ICT Association, Chamber of Commerce of Slovenia. And in addition, how we are organized to support R&D initiatives and how we work in these research and development projects, some achievements and what we currently do. So we are basically in this multi-domain world, we are wondering how we as a civilian sphere and military sphere work together to prepare the country for war in information age very successfully. So what we are doing, we are basically group the people from the research and development organizations, from the universities, and from the companies which are actually providing cybersecurity services to organize ourselves to be an opportunity for the civilian and military collaboration in this particular area. So what are our members are doing? So we are promoting human resource development. As Andrea said, this is of most importance. We are looking for certified knowledge, involvement in research and development, usage of standards and best practices. And by doing that, our members are improving the level of cybersecurity services throughout the entire life cycle in cybersecurity. So how we what we practically do in this research, development, innovation area. We are basically do three things. We collaborate with CapTex Cyber. We do some national activities, and in particular in defense, and there are as well as some other activities in this area which are done by our members. So working with CapTex Cyber, what we do, we participate at the meetings when these meetings are open to industry. So we collaborate in this industrial group led by Andrea right now in order to participate in the ideas, and at the end, we actually try to find the ideas what local industry could do, where we could participate in the projects, and finally to do actually tasks within the accepted projects. Locally, what we do locally, we basically do information exchange. So what Ida explained right now, we started some years ago explaining why defense fund could be important, why it's important, why we have to do, because at that time industry was not really prepared to do something in the defense. So then we start preparing proposals. We studied technical building blocks, which is a huge, rich document, at least was showing what are actual research topics. So, and we, based on what industry is able to do, we generate some project ideas, and then at the end we try to establish a small consortia which could be capable to participate in the projects, initiatives, and then we actually discuss with MOD on the opportunities. Are they willing to support such a projects? What are their opinion? And the end, gaining their actual support in the final decisions. And there are as well other research and development initiatives in the Horizon, Digital Europe, or Defense Fund. So our members are actually participating in European Cybersecurity Organization as well, because there are a lot of things going on the level of Europe. So this is the picture from, not entire picture, something is missing, it's not seen very well. So Andrea is there as well, so saying again. Ah, yes, I look at to the, so last year we hosted the CAPTECH cyber meeting, and this meeting was very successful. We learned a lot of things and start many activities further on. How we do in some particular initiatives. So we call together people. We are a small country, we probably know each other, and on certain workshops we start to discuss what could be done, and then we basically build some project ideas. What is the main issue is what we really are able to do, how we can help, and how we companies and research organizations can add additional knowledge to what they already know, and to see some final product which will be operational somewhere in the future. So, as I said already, these building blocks, technical building blocks, are very useful stuff for being studied, and when we start discussing with the companies, we take this document and saying, you know what, this is the opportunity. So we started some years ago with PASEI 2. This project is in execution. We did first step with that. Then we followed with Rimudo. Mura project was not really supported by MOD at that time. We are preparing Brico, and currently we are working with partners in Spectrum project. Spectre is about capabilities and vulnerabilities in the air defense area. So this is an example. Probably this picture is very well known for somebody sitting here. So what is the basic, what is the challenge for this particular project? The main topic was CIS supply chain, as already mentioned today. So 2 universities and one company is still working on this topic. To finalize, currently we are trying to be involved in the changes needed in these technical building blocks, because this document is some years old and there will be some changes. And to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, cooperation within the framework of CapTech Cyber and other European technical initiatives is very important, because members have opportunity to develop faster based on technology transfer, exchanging military knowledge as well, and network with the partner, what is essential for the making their capabilities higher, in order to support with the cybersecurity services all companies which are working with the defense, producing materials or equipment or services, whatever. So, and we believe that we working together could be much stronger than in parallel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Michael Nagel. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Milan Gabor from the company Viris, who will present the current trends in the cyber threat landscape.
Okay. Hello all. Also from myself. My assignment was to get a little bit about the trend landscape, and I can start with this slide. So actually we've seen, or somebody said, that there are two kinds of big companies. So first one, those who has been hacked, and those who don't know they have been hacked. And it goes the same for the, the military, for the defense systems, and also for not only for the big companies, but also for the small companies. And if we start also a little bit here regarding the days, so it's really interesting that almost 150, depends from which part of the world we are doing the statistics, that somebody is inside our networks, inside our systems, or inside our code, or the Wi-Fi network, or something else, and we don't know it. And that's the really big problem. And then if we go additional, in statistics, the average time that needs to go to from recovery to the full operation is like 69 days. So it's still, as we've seen, the cybersecurity and the issues and the attacks, we still have a lot of problems. If we go through the incidents, this is from Slovenia's statistic from CSERT. So the military and defense systems, they're not covered here because they're covering additional certs, but we've seen that incidents are rising. So we don't see any decline of it. Why this is a problem? Because the landscape, the attack vectors are getting even better and better, and also the landscape is getting higher. Since we are introducing new technologies, we are introducing new services, application systems, and new dimensions of attacks. Also, as we've seen what kind of the phishing, that its majority is still a problem. This week, I've been to one of the Slovenian computer emergency response team. So CSERT was celebrating 30 years of their existing. One of the slides on their presentation was that they have been talking about the phishing in year 2004. So 21 years ago, they have been, warning that phishing is a big problem, be aware. And it's the same here. So after 21 years, it looks like we haven't learned a lot, or we haven't taught the people, or we haven't taught the targets how to behave when they're targets of phishing. So we seem, we have a lot of things still to do. And since we are doing a lot of, penetration testing, we've seen that for majority successful hacks, to get inside the system, to get inside the data, to get inside the humans, there are not very sophisticated attacks behind. Andrea was already mentioning before that the cyber warfare, there is actually a new dimension. And I won't go into the details, but we have seen, that everything is adjusting. Also the cyber attacks, also the economy. So also the cyber is getting really, really important. So if we just take a look at some of the Slovenians' biggest threats, because I hope we learned something from that attacks. We have seen when, let's say, electric industry gets hit, it's not only that things are going down, but also that the attackers, they are not just playing with one card, but they are playing with multiple cards. So not just I don't know if the ransomware attack is there, not just like encrypting all the data, but also taking out the data and then maybe publishing it on the internet, like it was in that case, but also trying to extort the clients. We've seen what also last year, or it was the last year. What if the whole company stops? Not just the IT, but also the industry. So the whole company. We've seen that also the big companies in Slovenia, like Telecom, they had a breach there, and they noticed some of the cyber incidents. And of course, we've seen last year, which is, you don't want to get that, that the whole university stops. And it means really stops. So everything, nothing is working there. And if we go a little bit about also to the clouds, Andrea was mentioning before, Ukraine moved to the cloud. Now, hey, we're safe. We've seen that, there have been people inside the Microsoft cloud for almost 2 years. They could forge the tokens, they could impersonate anybody on this planet. And we've seen this Tuesday what happens if the DNS stops working, and the AWS stops working. And this is not happening here. It's happening somewhere in West or North Virginia, somewhere, and it's totally breaking down the things. So also the cloud is not so secure, as maybe we're thinking. And also, if we get actually to the last week, we've seen really large companies are using this as a proxy as the web application firewall. So F5, breach by nation-state threat actor, and not just the breach. If they manage to breach, they normally take everything that they can sell or they can abuse. So in this case, they actually took the source code of this software. They actually managed to get inside, and they are selling it, and they are already exploiting it. Then we've seen, that's if you didn't update the Microsoft Windows last week, you should, because we've seen that was the biggest monthly release ever, with more than 160 CVEs, so vulnerabilities. Really, some of them, they're quite critical vulnerabilities. So if you haven't patched, you're a perfect target to start with that. Then, attackers also break new technology. They are not just using it, but they are abusing. For example, like here. So the North Korea is using the blockchain, which was, really hyped a couple of years ago, and to begin to hide malware on a blockchain. And because of the nature of the blockchain, if you have malware there, you cannot get rid of it. Otherwise, if you destroy the whole blockchain, but that's not part of it, because we really want to have, the history. So how should we delete the malware from the blockchain if it's there? So kind of new, really new crazy ideas. And then we are here. If you're, since you're talking a lot of for military and defense, there was really amazing research that satellites, because we have seen different kind of, let's say, dimensions, and those satellites and those traffic that goes up, to the satellites and back down to the Earth, we've seen that huge number of satellites links over our heads are totally unencrypted. And why is this interesting? Because we've seen here, you can actually listen to unencrypted to the cellular, then military and government, who is also using a lot of satellite communication. You can actually get to some data of the in-flight Wi-Fi, voice over IP, international commercial networks, and even in critical infrastructure. with a device that normally costs around $160 to $600. It depends how much money you can invest in that. So we have also the global cyber threat overview. What we can see, definitely cybercrime as a service. Today you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know anything about the attacks. You just go on the dark market and you say, I want this, I want to have like this, I want to target this, and they will take care. So for you, they can provide you whatever you want. And also AI-driven attacks are really getting into it. Then, since I said we still need to go to the back, we are still society of the passwords. And those passwords, in majority of the cases, in majority of the breaches, they are leading to some secrets or to stolen things or to get insight of the networks. And those credentials are really, really cheap. If you go to some of the Russian forums like this one, Russian markets, you can get somebody's digital identity for like $10. And trust me, I did go there. I bought the Bitcoins with the Revolut and to buy some of the data there. And my Revolut account got canceled because of that. So, don't try this at home. But it's really your digital identity, but not only for accessing the critical systems, but also accessing some home systems or health systems or governmental. It's for $10. That's the price on the dark market. So we've seen different, if we little bit get into the threat intelligence, we can get access brokers, weaponization of 0 days. If somebody finds a 0 day today, it's really interesting that from 0 day to weaponizing, so you can actually hack into the systems. Today we are talking not more about the days, but hours or even minutes today with the help of the AI. And we definitely have problems with intelligence sharing information. Not in Slovenia, but I've seen all around the world. So what else? It's really interesting, if you're going through different sites, for example, in this case from ENISA, we've seen that first threat, until 2030, they put supply chain attacks. So supply chain attacks are really, really, let's say, dangerous. And we've seen this also already from the history from Log4j. And in my opinion, they put artificial intelligence abuse on the number 10, which is really, really low. But I think that the AI and attacks is going to be really high in the future, or it's already a big threat now. Why we are talking about this? If I show this picture to some IT, it's a small company or medium-sized company or even the large one, today, if you really want to be secure or if you really want to have everything regarding the cybersecurity under control, you have to have like this, And the small companies or medium companies, which are also, let's say, in a chain for cyber companies or in the supply chain, they really have a problem with that. And of course, after the COVID, we got an AI. And the AI really, last week, I had a presentation at one auditor's conference, and my question to the auditors in Slovenian, who are not just the normal auditors, but auditors for the information system, was, have you ever audited AI? And it's like, no. Do you know how to audit AI system? They said like, no. So we're having problems because this area is so fast evolving, also regarding the cybersecurity, some of the things, that should be fixed already, they're already resurrection. For example, like regarding the web application and the systems and the mobile application, we got rid so-called injections. It took like around 25 years, so developers learn how to get rid of the injections. And the first, if we get back to the AI, on the first map of top 10 for AI systems, there is injection again. So we've seen this circle, it's repeating itself again. So if you ask me, how do I see, in the future, I see the red AI fighting against the blue AI. Who's going to win? The winner is going to be that one who has the most money. That's at the end, because if you have like money, you have the resources, and you have the targets, then definitely that one is going to be winning. So regarding the trends, definitely AI-powered attacks, as I said, supply chain, and a 0 day. So if you combine the AI with a supply chain and a 0 day market, you get a perfect combination to take over the world. And of course, just before the end, we shouldn't forget about the incident management. I've been to several, let's say, high severity incidents in Slovenia, and also helped some which happened not only in Slovenia but abroad. And we see that we are still lacking here, not just the knowledge, but also, let's say, the playbooks, how to handle it, not just the technical part, but also, let's say, social or the media part. Okay, just to conclude, definitely cyber is now strategic terrain in global defense and also offense. I'm sure that we are pretty bad in offense, but in defense, let's say, if we are looking at the cybersecurity exercises, Slovenians are doing quite well. Threats, if we combine with AI, is going to be faster, stealthier. Why? Because you can not just develop one malware with AI, but you can develop malware for each of the targets. And it's not the same for the all. And definitely what we are still missing is definitely intelligence sharing, since we all want to have our own, let's say, playground, and we don't want to share all the information. As already Andrea said, automation is going to play a crucial role here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Milan Gabor. Next, I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Matej Rabzel from the University of Ljubljana, from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Laboratory for Telecommunications.
All right. Thank you for the short introduction, and good afternoon also on behalf of the Laboratory for Telecommunications, more precisely Faculty of Electrical Engineering, University of Ljubljana. As mentioned, my name is Matej Rabzel, and I work in the lab as a cybersecurity researcher. And for today's topic, I'd like to share with you a little bit of an insight into the opportunities for dual-use solutions in terms of cybersecurity. And I believe that one of the best ways to do so is to talk to you about the way we conduct research in our lab, to talk to you how we're making use of the wider, broader ecosystem that facilitates, enables, and supports research and development projects. And along the way, talk about how we're shifting from the civilian domain towards critical infrastructures, and later on to first trials with our MOD. But before I do so, allow me a brief few words about our institutions. The Faculty of Electrical Engineering is one of the 26 faculties, members of the University of Ljubljana. And with over 40,000 students, more than 2,000 of those at our faculty, we are primarily concerned, of course, with teaching and educating future generations of engineers, including cybersecurity professionals. However, on our day-to-day work, the majority of our activity concerns research and development. And this is even more pronounced within the Laboratory for Telecommunications, where we are specifically focusing on cybersecurity in multiple domains, helping companies and third parties transition and make that left shift to think about cybersecurity as early as possible in a product development lifecycle, as well as, of course, focusing on networking and cloud technologies. And the way we operate in a lab environment could be summarized in, let's say, 4 key steps. First and foremost, we conduct research as our primary activity. This is our core competence. But unlike many other laboratories, we tend to build on top of that body of knowledge that we accumulate throughout research projects and attempt to productivize this research by developing actual tangible solutions, be it prototypes or software, hardware, or services. And to do so, we oftentimes partner with key players in the industry and support an ecosystem of startups and spin-outs. But before these solutions are ready to enter the market, we have to test them. And again, the university, as a research institution with laboratories, provides a great laboratory test bed, a sandbox for verification and testing. And last but not least, to close the R&D loop, we're then focusing on training and embedding new knowledge back to the curriculum for the future generations. Now, none of this would be possible without a wider ecosystem. An ecosystem that facilitates research and development. An ecosystem on a national, European, and international level, where at the very forefront are policy-making and funding institutions. These institutions not only enable and support research and development activities, but they also share their critical challenges upon which it is up to the researchers and industry to partner in consortiums to address these challenges and develop tangible solutions that are then going to be used by the very same organizations or their counterparts, closing the loop of research and development by implementing new technologies. And it is our role as a research institution to try to bridge the gap with industry, to develop initial body of knowledge throughout conducting research, proposing new ideas and methods, as well as maybe even proposing technical implementations, which are then developed by industry professionals and spin-outs. Looping back, we can conduct testing activities, and afterwards, both of the parties in this ecosystem can focus on their desired outcomes, be it the dissemination of research in terms of university, or be it following up with sales and support as followed for the development of the solution. Now, to talk a little more about how we're doing this, I'd like to talk to you about one of our projects or solutions that we've been developing through a variety of projects over the past years, identifying the needs of different participating entities. Specifically, I'll talk about a distributed honeypot platform that we call the CyberLab. A platform of distributed sensors. Think of them as virtual servers that we're deploying in a variety of networks all across the globe. And these servers, these sensors, portray and pose on the internet as real production services, protocols, or devices, and they can intentionally simulate vulnerabilities. Their aim is to appear vulnerable to the attackers. We are actually inviting the attackers to conduct attacks on this distributed infrastructure and then carefully monitoring their actions. We are trying to figure out what the attackers are doing, to evaluate their techniques, tactics, and procedures. Now, the overall platform that we've been building consists of a subsystem of sensors, so-called honeypots, that emulate services or devices, and a range of dark IPs that have never before been used to host any services. On top of those, we've built our own tools for data enrichment to enable analytics and visualization. Now, we've primarily developed this system, the CyberLab platform, for our own research needs. We've thought about commercialization, but sooner or later figured out that, in fact, the majority of businesses do not care about analytics or detection. They care about protection. They want to lock the doors, not analyze the attackers. The only exception in that domain were mostly critical infrastructures, where they're trying to build additional set and measures to defend their networks, including investigating cyber attacks. So we've pivoted our research, tailored it to the critical infrastructures, and deployed, partner with the domestic providers of critical infrastructure in the healthcare domain, energy domain, and the IT and networking domain, and deployed our honeypots across those infrastructures. And in the last stage, we've identified the need for advanced analytics and internal network deployments with our MOD. And in order to be able to transition to this dual-use use case, to the military domain, this is incredibly hard. And it's right there where the pilot projects and the supporting ecosystem enable initial deployments for evaluation and identification of the needs of the military domain, which greatly differ than the civilian one. So the main idea is that we can, on a national level, simulate critical infrastructure, which poses either as a vulnerable or indistinguishable service from real production deployments. These honeypots, cyber traps, then just sit there and passively listen for the attacker to strike. And once they do, they send an alert to the network administrator and collect rich attack data. In the central location, this attack data is being processed and transformed in accordance with the developed cyber attack models, where we've tried to closely follow the cyber kill chain framework, describing the steps the attacker took throughout the network, the actions they've taken. And then give a statistical overview of the actual attacks, as well as offer our own tools for visualizing them. For discovering the latent links between the attackers, given the techniques and the tools they were using, to identify connected networks, communities of attackers operated by single entity, to determine the point in time at which a particular user visiting a honeypot became an actual attacker by performing malicious requests. And for this reason, we call our research platform the Cyber Threat Intelligence Laboratory. And in accordance with our pivot from research use case towards the critical infrastructure, towards the initial MOD deployments, we're also striving to make it adhere to these populations by enabling either the identification of attacker communities, generation of reports for analysis of threats and exposure of your organizations, or just to use it as a detection for internal networks. And we hope to be able to continue to build and develop on that platform and to offer it to a wider community of cybersecurity researchers by partnering with new organizations in the field of critical infrastructure and in the cyber defense military domain. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matej, for interesting insight into your work. Next, I would like to invite the next speaker, which is, I think, Mr. Peter Ceferin, who is the Chief Technological Officer at SmartCom.
Good afternoon to everybody. We will now jump to something what is making things much more difficult. This is quantum computing and how to fight against this in cyber security space. So let me start with my personal story, which will explain the title. I used to serve in military reserve some 30 years back as a cryptographer, and we used those old-fashioned teleprinters. The point was actually in cryptography. Those things were only transmission systems. So the speeds there were really, really poor. 50 baud. For those who don't know what is baud is 1 symbol per second. In digital world, for example, if this is 8 bits, that would mean 400 bits per second. We are talking today about terabits per second in our world. So we were joking, but it was not far away from the truth. Why using those kind of things? Because it should work also over barbed wire. Battlefields, trenches, and so on might lack of any transmission media. But jumping 30 years till now, actually our core mission stays unchanged. We are talking about trust and confidentiality. The only thing which changed is what we fear today. At that time our fear was noise, jamming, still today, but what is coming now are really quantum computers. Quantum computers as machines who can which can provide much, much more capabilities like today computers. Why this? Because those two gentlemen, very important gentlemen, proved that, for example, both are mathematicians. They are not IT guys. Yeah, they are dealing with computer science, but basically mathematicians. Peter Shor actually invented Shor's algorithm in 1994. Using that algorithm actually proved that today's encryption, which is more or less asymmetric, can be broken with quantum computers. The guy on the right side, Mr. Grover, another mathematician, scientist, he proved that using quantum computers can break also symmetric or just thread symmetric encryption. However, if you use enough long cipher key, it seems to be safe. So 256 long key IS should be safe. What would mean this to 2056? If you do 2 by power of 256, that would make enormous numbers. If we imagine that let's say in the space we didn't reach so far. So that's it. Why is this important? Why we are talking about quantum computers now? We know that they are not here in a, let's say, broader usage, but the problem becomes with, it was already mentioned today, so-called handler. Harvest today, decrypt later. So data intercepted today may be exposed tomorrow when we will have enough quantum computers capabilities. So when we are talking about most critical systems like defense, critical infrastructure, they really require long-term confidentiality. So bottom line, we must start to make some transition from classical encryption to post-quantum encryption using modern algorithms. So when the quantum computers will be there, nobody knows. Might be in 5 years, might be 15 years. But if we listen today, store the data today, and decrypt them later, this actually endangers us. So it's time to plan these activities because defense, government, critical infrastructure, also some industrial communications in industry, let's say critical industry, which is also working for military, they are at risk with this kind. So we need to do some quantum-resistant encryption. We need to use new ciphers, new products, system changes, and this cannot happen over the night. So we need to start thinking, planning, and making some steps today. So the bottom line, the solution here would be deploying symmetric keys encryption in networks to complement with post-quantum cryptography. And for the end, this would be a use case how to use it. Optical networks, optical communication. This is today very common media, providing high speeds, connecting data centers, connecting many things. But listening today to optical fiber is very easy, very easy. You can buy on the internet a small tap, and you need only maybe few 10 centimeters of access to the fiber. You put the fiber into that tap, and then you will catch very, very small portion of light. This light carries information. And if this is encrypted by classical encryption, then you will find with handle you can do this decryption later. So, and of course, connecting nodes in telecommunications, we call them nodes, and using the encryption on the optical fiber with keys for symmetric encryption, and with in defense we will use also separate security management, because the cryptographers are different people from networkers. But the networkers will provide the, I would say, infrastructure. Cryptographer will deal with the keys and with the how to encrypt things. So we are talking about, this is not something for tomorrow. This is already there. It's available, field-proven, certified with all the certificates you can see on the right side, and of course qualified for this kind of usage. So, thank you from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Peter Stefanin. Now, last but not least, our last speaker for today. Then we continue with the panel is Mr. Egon Milanic, who will be talking about crypto, also the cryptographic, so crypto producing nation as Slovenia is one.
Thank you, Marco, for the introduction. Before I start, I have a small confession to make. My only mission today is to tell you how good we are. Now, who we, I mean, Slovenians, our office, producer, you will decide. Peter basically did all dirty work for me here. So I will skip this slide and I will go to this one that I like. So the question here is how good a crypto device shall be to protect NATO secret classified information. Short answer, very good. How do we know that? That's a little bit long, kind of longer story, but basically we have to, of course, pass the evaluation process, and that one is done in two steps. The first one is a national evaluation. Yeah, by the way, I'm coming from UVTP, that would be Ljubkovalno, naš urad. So I would say that the first step is some kind of homework. I mean, you do it at home, at office, but anyway. And once you have this yes at the end, then you go to the next step, which is a really kind of interesting one. You have to go to NATO. You have to go to SICAN. By the way, do we know what SICAN is? Yes, no, more or less. Okay, it stands for security evaluation and something like that at NATO, of course. Kind of, they know what they are doing. The result, once you pass the evaluation, is the crypto device in our case that was approved for handling NATO secret classified information. And by the way, it is a long process. In our case, it took more than 2 years, and it was 2 years after a long preparation. Yeah, really many years. We were speaking here about kind of maybe 10 years all together, which was, at least in a part of it, based on a Slovenian crypto strategy. By the way, it's published on our website. It's from 2016, but still, I would say, very valid. And yeah, and here it's, forget about the first slide. Here is where I would really like to ask you for your attention, because I would like to tell you that Slovenia has just become a NATO crypto producing nation. What is that? What does it mean? Why is that so important? it is important because we are now in very exclusive club. And this club contains only 10 NATO countries, and Slovenia is second smallest. So it is a great achievement, and we are proud because we were involved in this. So we were helping producer to go through the process and at the end to get this certificate. So I can say at the end that I think that we are good. You will decide. Because we know how to build and we know how to evaluate. And by the way, if you want to, you cannot see it, but yeah, what is the product? Yeah. The product is low latency layer 2 and layer 3, 10 gigabits network encryptor. And if you want to know more, you can scan that QR code for the information. So this is all from my side. Thank you, and Marco, I hope I was fast enough.
You're like Speedy Gonzalez. So thank you, Egon, for the nice introduction. Now I would ask all the presenters to join me on stage to have the panel discussion. So please, if you can come on to stage. We have enough chairs, don't worry. You'll have space to sit somewhere. Okay, I think we are all settled in. So to kickstart the discussion, I will try to open up the discussion, and then later on I will give the floor to you, the audience, to ask questions to our panelists. But first of all, maybe I would like to relate to the readiness for the future. So we talked about quantum computing, we talked about AI-driven hybrid attacks and so on. From your perspective, what would be a top priority for NATO or Europe to strengthen its cyber resilience? So we are talking about cyber or cyber hybrid stuff in the next 5 years. So what would be the key point here?
Just add something, because this is related to what I presented in the last slides. In my opinion, we need to talk about an ecosystem. That's the point. To be prepared, I come from hacking, call it this way. I started breaking games since I was young. So I'm a reverse engineer, so things like this. I like playing games of others without paying. So this is how it works. So I think that to understand what happens in the other part, you need to know the other part. The real problem is who explains to you how is organized the other part. So we have the military that knows very well how the operation is managed, what are the conditions. You can define the battle. You have the academia that can create the future people, that can create knowledge, that can create competencies, and the industries that can use them to generate products. And I think that these three needs to work together, because you need to have the requirement, you need to have the competencies, and you need to have the resources and the products. That's the point. And I don't think that you can have them if you don't put all the things together. There are a lot of speakers that talks about this. We can have the European funds that can support this, but this is not sufficient. The idea is that you need to, everything starts from cooperation, for example, at the country level. For example, not only in Slovenia, for example, but I don't know, Slovenia with France is difficult. With Italy, call it in this way. But also to create bilateral cooperation can be another point that can be taken in care.
Thank you. Any other opinions on this?
Yeah, thank you. I would really like to echo what you have just said. The problem we are dealing at national, European, and NATO level is that as you said, we have very good Slovenian companies, for example, doing very good products, research organizations that are among the best in the world, but because your use case from Israel was very good one. The problem is most of the people were not in the military. They do not know how the military nowadays work. So also another example you said, it's not just cyber defense, it's offense also. Again, there are drones nowadays. So we have to really think about how we will involve researchers and industry more in the military system, that they will get the information. Because, to be honest, military guys don't really have time to tell the industry, look, we are at the battlefield, we are communicating like this. We don't have time. You, as industry, need to know that. And at the moment, because of the budget for defense is really rising up, the companies who have military experts working for them are really, really going to be those who will benefit of this. So my advice for all the companies trying to enter into the defense sector, find someone who knows how the military works. You have ex-military guys, they're retired generals and so on, or military experts who can help you. And because it's not really copy-paste, you cannot use the same solution you have in cyber, in civil, and just copy-paste, here is it in defense. It's not working.
Thank you.
So me as an ex-soldier, I would say that basically what were the conclusions of recent conference on the doctrine changes within the Slovenian Armed Forces. What is important? So it's very clear for soldiers what their requirements are, but are they able to convince the politicians to support those changes? This is one thing. The second is military could be always behind what is happened in industry, particularly when we are talking about cybersecurity. So civil and army collaboration in this topic is, from my perspective, essential on all levels. So not only theoretically, but doing together exercises, sitting together, armed forces, people in uniforms, talking to young engineers and so on. What was actually the conclusion of Armed Forces Commander? He said, we need exercises and we need more and more exercises to experience multi-domain warfare and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. To be a bit provocative, the device that I spoke before, that one was developed without any public money, and at the same time we know that there are countries, NATO countries, that they are putting millions or even tens of millions into the development of this kind of, let's say, same more or less, not same, similar devices and solutions. So it's not only about money. That would be my message here. If I go a bit back to at the beginning of your question, I would, speaking about classified information, I would like to add that I see a kind of similar shift to what Peter knows. It's operational technology. So kind of moving from something that is very kind of closed, the perimeter is very designed, very even air-gapped, to something else. I would say some kind of clouds are knocking on our doors, and I have to admit that I have some problems with that. But yes, but this is the I would say the direction we are moving.
Thank you. What I think is that Egon just mentioned operational technology. This is crucial for working of critical infrastructure, for example, electricity. So it is very important, and we see that let's say the number of the engineers who can deal with ICS, OT, cybersecurity is very low. So I think we'll have to increase the capabilities on the let's say engineer side. So more engineers starting at the university. So Faculty for Electricity is one of the very good cases doing this, but we'll need to produce more engineers, more and more, because to be honest, knowledge here is still behind IT cybersecurity. Why? Because it was in the past, it was not so, let's say, not so important. Everything was air-gapped. So there was always people saying, no one can enter my operational system because it's completely physically separated from our IT system. This is no longer the case. Things are becoming interconnected, and also the techniques of the break into that system are not only connectivity via some IT or some other network, but just remember what happened with Stuxnet. It came into completely separated air-gapped network, and it did enormous damage. And what we fear now in this space is how to defend against this kind of threats. Because in OT networks, we need to know that it's a slightly different from IT, because there are some things which you don't find in the IT. For example, protocols. Protocols are specific. And using technologies like deep packet inspection, like encrypting and so on, it helps a lot. But at the end of the day, we can use artificial intelligence, but at the end of the day, the deciding will be on a people, on a person. That's the case. Maybe in some future we can leave everything to be, let's say, unmanned, but not now. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the thoughts before, that the military and the defense, it's now, let's say, also a little bit behind the cybersecurity, because if we just get back to the history, we know where internet started, so it's a little bit, things are a little bit turn around. But I can say, from my point of view, since we are not doing military stuff officially or unofficially, but what we've seen in, let's say, in the corporate environment, we've seen that those companies that they are regulated, they're much, much better than the other ones who are not. So I'm really happy, also the European Union and ENISA and the regulations that they are going through are really helping to, let's say, raise the security, also security, not in the companies, but in the whole ecosystem, supply chain. So to, let's say this as an example. For example, last week and tomorrow I'm having a training for the developers who are actually producing devices, and without the Cyber Resilience Act, who's going to be active next year, they won't be doing this at all. So secure coding lines, because it's really interesting, when I took apart their hardware device and their software management, I found like 2 or 3 critical issues in less than an hour. So that's kind of reality. So I think the regulation here is really good because it's going to raise the bar. And definitely the second part that we need to do it's also to build the capacity, because otherwise, you have the problem at the university probably, and then since you have the problem, we in a corporate world, we have the problems. Also military has the problem because we don't have enough people, and that's also one of the, let's say, threats that ENISA put up until 2030, and it's not just in Europe but all around the world. So we need to start also in that part.
Thank you so much for the question, and being the last one in the row. gives me a great opportunity to try to summarize these ideas and with maybe a little bit of a spin that may sound counterintuitive at first, given the fact that I was talking mostly about developing products, solutions. The fact is that cybersecurity and cyber resilience is not a product. In fact, it is posture, and we have to build posture, and we have to start with the very basics. And with the very basics, I mean at the lower levels of enabling and ensuring, let's say, the basic digital hygiene for each and every participant in the cyber security or the cyberspace domain. And this goes to and applies to everybody, the users as well, not just the developers, the researchers, and the defenders. So if we start with the basics and build on top of that, then with the tactical and strategic levels, we hopefully will see changes.
Thank you. Now that's the first round of questions. In between, I would like to give the floor to our audience if they have any questions for our panelists. Okay. It seems like they're all waiting to go.
Nobody's asking the questions.
Yeah, nobody. So don't be afraid. We don't bite. We'll not offend you. So let me then continue with the second round of questions. We talked about capacity. We talked about posture, as you have said. And let me go back to knowledge. Yeah. Do you think that in the cybersecurity domain, whether it's IT or OT, do we have enough people with adequate knowledge, let's call it like that, with adequate knowledge who would be able to defend or even offend somebody? Maybe we go in the other direction.
Of course. Thank you for the question again. I think we are beginning to place strategic programs to develop this capability. But sadly, I think we're not there with the numbers yet. We have to be able to make cybersecurity more attractive to younger people, to ensure that we will have an adequate inflow of students to the technical disciplines, and direct them and tell them the importance of cybersecurity in all of the domains. We can be talking about the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, which spans a lot of topics, all from the microchips to software solutions, and we have to incorporate cybersecurity in each of those topics to build this future generation of engineers. There are programs in place, and I'm happy that Slovenia is also participating in several military exercises in terms of cyber defense, such as lock shields, to bring together all of the bright minds working in this domain and to build, let's say, a body of knowledge in terms of people and human resources that can act together in case of an incident happens. We are on a good path, but we can still strengthen it because we're not just there yet with the numbers.
Okay. I think that here academia is getting a little bit behind because it takes so much time to build a new, the new studies, the new programs, and that's a little bit problematic. Because I know when we got this really good students from the faculty, we have to build them again because they don't have any, let's say, basic knowledge in that kind of the area. So that's one part, and maybe because as Andrea mentioned already before, it's a whole ecosystem. This is not only the defensive, offensive, but we have also we've seen it in exercises in like lock shields. You have to have the communicators, you have to have policymakers, you have to have everybody who is tying together. So it's kind of ecosystem who fits a lot of not just the engineers, but so it's a lot of work to do. But definitely, we have to, I'm looking at some other, let's say, countries in Europe, when they're trying to send, let's say, young people to the European competition for the cybersecurity. In other countries, they are like selecting from 100 or 1,000 candidates. In Slovenia, for example, we are selecting from 10, 15 people to 8. From Italia, one this year, and I was really surprised because they clear all the challenges that they were there. They were like pretty bad. So it's a long way, but we have to start, and probably we have to collaborate. That's another That's another issue that we have sometimes in Slovenia because, we are not willing to share too much with others.
My opinion is that there is not enough people in this space. The pool is, let's say, mostly empty, not completely, but we'll need more people. And I see here a very important mission of academia, industry to work together. Because academia has, let's say, deeper knowledge. They can complement with some basic research and findings of this, and industry can, let's say, implement this into the technological systems. That's one thing. The other thing is that, as my predecessors mentioned, this is an ecosystem. This is not only the technology. This is how those things are managed, who will manage, how these things are getting into some framework. So we are talking about the processes. And the processes are things of organization, which needs, of course, resources, human resources, also technology. But I think that technology is not such a problem. We have a lot of development on technology. We need people who will be able to work with this and who will be able to somehow complement into the organization's processes. This is a completely new, let's say, skill needed. And for this kind of, let's say, operations, you don't need complete, let's say, experts. You need people with understanding of technology, but more with organizational and framework knowledge, how to manage those things. So this is also a point we need to think about.
Thank you. Listening to my colleagues, Marco, I would a bit rephrase your question, if you don't mind. For me, I would say the question should be, do we have decision makers willing to listen to the experts? And I promised to myself to be positive and fast, so... Okay.
Next one. So from our perspective, I would emphasize, not mention that we are talking about that we are missing people. What I would like to emphasize here is starting with the local shields, which are taking some place some few years, where civilian and defense part are working on exercise. So, and unfortunately they are very successful. So I counted that we will find out where we don't have knowledge. So to be honest, we need a lot of cyber specialists, knowing standards and implementing cyber measures in the companies. This is another part. So Milan did some last month exercise for the children with the Slovenian Armed Forces umbrella. Under umbrella, they organized some event. We have very soon Cyber Night, starting with 20 participants some years ago. Nowadays we have more than 100 participants, if I'm right. So we do more and more and more. And other part, some guy from MOD said, you know what, we shouldn't be wondering how to find people because there are not enough people. We have to organize ourselves and do more with what we have in position. So we should generate more knowledge based, and I would share your opinion. So it's not enough that specialists are pushing this stuff. We have to talk to politicians, we have to talk to generals to understand what it means for the future war. I hope it will not happen, but we are living in the information age. So as was already explained, it's very well known that war is actually done always with the tools of the age. So at least I was taught this way in the army. Thank you.
Thank you. I will give you an example. I'm a head of R&D at our MOD. I have a guy for military uniforms. He went to Austria for a meeting. One guy, there's 100 experts in Austria for the same domain. So no, we don't have enough people. We are covering a lot of not only cyber, we're working on space, on drones, on AI, on so many different levels, and we are always looking for more experts. But I want to have a really positive answer. So last week I was at an event, we were talking about military science, and one military expert, Colonel Robert Schipetz, were on a stage, and he said, "I love my job." And what we are doing in military and at MOD, you cannot do it nowhere else. So for guys who are interested in cyber, what we are doing here in cyber range, it is something you cannot do anywhere else in Slovenia, and it is for the same for all other member states. And the last I would like to add, we were talking about knowledge of the experts, but if we are talking about cybersecurity, and you were mentioning it's one of the battlefield, it's a domain, everybody is involved. So, are everybody at our MOD or all ministers in Slovenia aware? Do they have knowledge to not open the email you were talking about phishing? That's the question we should be really asking, because we're talking about quantum, we're talking about AI and so many really disruptive technologies, but we are so many times forgetting the basics that everybody has to be aligned if we want to really have secure not only cyber but everything.
I want to change the game on this because, in my opinion, answering also to your question, the problem is not how much expert we have and so on. I understand that maybe in Slovenia you have less experts respect to Italy, because I know when we do the locust shield we have 300 people that works, but 300 people that works as a middle people. That's the point. There is a problem of the mindset. You can have as much professional people as much you want. The real problem is the reality. Especially when talking about offensive, but also for the defensive part. The real problem is that when an attack is in place, from the defensive point of view, every people starts running outside the process because want to solve something. And this confusion generate a lot of confusion and generate to be defeated. This is the problem. This is real things that happens. You can have the best CM in town, you can have the best protection, but when something fails, people are not used to adapt to this. And if you look at this at the offensive part, you are talking about exercise. There is someone yesterday that talked about the exercise, physical exercise. The real problem is that, for example, there are a lot of CTF, capture the flag, that are for the offensive, you defend, you attack. The real problem of this, you see a lot of people, young people, taking a lot of points, being very good. They are good in the game, not in the process. They are good in the game. I know a lot of young people that can break inside the computer inside seconds because they know how to use tools or things together. But if I give to them a real operation and they need to define what to do in a real operation, they get in panic. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to react, how to collaborate. We did a teaching capabilities with a foreign country to explain to them how to do real offensive operations. The first point is this. This is the target. Let's work in the target. They generated 1 terabyte of data against the target. We said to this, it's like you have a bulldozer and try to enter inside the main door. Everyone can check for you, and then the defensive team will stop you. The problem is how you can generate less footprint as possible for the attack. This means that you need to take in care that there is a defender, that you need to evade the defender, things like this. And I got in panic on this. So I think that the real problem is that we don't know real problems. especially with cyber physical systems. I agree with you, Milan, when you said we know everything regarding phishing and so on because we suffer it by our own. We know everything, more or less, regarding ransomwares because we have encrypted everything that is in our company. But how happens this? What is the business model? What's the mindset that generate these kind of actions is not clear, and especially for cyber physical systems. We are following, for example, a project for the naval systems. They are afraid regarding the GPS problem. To say, because if someone attack my GPS, not at the radio frequency, they're talking about NMEA, that is the protocol that is used inside the ship. They can change the position in the map, and I have my ship that go from there. Then, in my mind, I say, who would be so stupid to do something like this? Why I am afraid regarding this concept? They are afraid about this concept, and they ask to them, why you are afraid regarding this? And their answer was, because there was a research institution in Italy that demonstrated that they can do this in a simulator. Okay, but this is not a real operation. You don't have someone that did this. So this is the real problem. Who can give the real problem? You mentioned Stuxnet. Stuxnet is the only example that we have of a cyber attack. And it took 2 years to be developed. There have a lot of people that work on this. It's a multi-domain actions because they created the fake challenge and so blah, blah, blah. They do things like this. But it's the only case that we know. And just because someone, Americans tells that was the Israelis, but so on, did a wrong update of the malware. And the Russian discovered it. That's the only way, because we know about Stuxnet.
Okay. Yes, please. If somebody has something to add, please do so. Yeah, of course.
Maybe just to briefly add on to my initial commentary, I'd like to follow up with Michael and Aida. I'm very glad to see that these activities are taking place to get young kids, young students, inspired from the very young age regarding the topic of cybersecurity. And I think that is the key, and I hope that we will be seeing in a couple of years the influence of this, that we'll have a better inflow of students to our programs. We've been working very hard for the couple of past years. In fact, the very next year, we are starting with a cybernetic and quantum engineering program, study program, with multiple faculties all involved. We've also started, we have 2 additional subjects dedicated specifically to cybersecurity and a military module. We just need to get those numbers up to be able to build cyber defenses on a national level. And these activities are, in my opinion, the key to getting students from high schools and even earlier age interested in the topic to go study something in the direction of engineering and then implement cybersecurity into every aspect of the engineering.
So, anybody has something to add?
I want to add to this. And I add to this because this can be interesting if they are, I have a friend of mine that working on this, but I don't know if it can be possible. They use this kind of young people to perform double-blind attacks, to say, okay, let's attack this and let's how you defend to this. I say that if you have a satellite platform and you give this to the young students and say, okay, let's destroy it and whatever and find something, probably they get more information with respect to experts regarding this. So I agree with what you're saying. The problem is how we can give to them the possibility to build the future. That's the point. You need to give elements, components, whatever. You need to give the real situation double blind. Everyone is frightened regarding double blind because it means they can attack you and you have to defend. You don't know myself, I don't know yourself, and everything is real.
It's the most realistic scenario that you can...
I had the opportunity to do this 2 times only, but it's very difficult because when we did it, it's very difficult to enter inside the environment and we need to work in a different way. But in the other side, we have people that are very worried regarding this. They say, you have been, it's not fair. It's not fair. You did unfair things. And they said, yeah, but the attacker works in this way. It's not someone that call you and say, I am attacking you.
And in other words, I'm sensing some great potential for collaboration on that topic.
Exactly. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It's a discussion, so... and anybody new from the audience who would like to ask something? Okay. Then maybe let's shift to another topic, which is very maybe important from a cybersecurity perspective. Not only this kind of perspective, but it's getting more and more important in the last years, which is sovereignty. So so what do you think should we, as Europe, as NATO, do in order also to maintain some technological sovereignty? You were talking about clouds. Where clouds are located, and even if they are located in Europe, they're still controlled. And we talk about, for instance, the other parts like China or Russia, who are quite sensitive to sovereignty in regarding to cyber.
I'd like also to listen your point of view, because this is the point, because there are 2 points on this. The first one is the American style. Sovereignty means that I need to have my own products. I know that there was 5 years ago someone that talked about creating its own hardware. And they said, it costs too much, so it's not possible. I think that the problem is what we define as sovereignty. This is the point. Are we talking about data? Are we talking about processes? Are we talking about competencies or models? What I have in mind, this is the second point, this is how this layer works, that we need to use the word that we have. If we have cloud, we cannot say that cloud doesn't exist. It exists. If there is Dell that manufacture computers and the costs are cheaper, because some of you talked about accreditation, especially for the encryption. But the real problem is that in the Ukrainian warfare, this is what happened. If things change faster, and the time needed to accredit something is 2 years, imagine that you start with some encryptions, I don't know, then there is someone that breaks inside because you don't know how it happens, and you cannot use this anymore because they don't enter inside the data, but simply they generate a side attack that avoid that you can use the data. That is another point. So you need to use another solution. But this solution needs to be accredited themselves. So other 2 years, but the fight goes ahead. So the real problem is how fast you can manage this and how you control. And this is what I have in mind, what is behind, and how I can change it very fast according to the threat. That's the point.
Okay, thank you for a very interesting question. Well, it's very difficult, actually. I will give you an example. We are part of Slovenian MOD of the EDF project BattlePad. It's more IT thing, but nevertheless, we are cooperating with Croatia and Austria. And when we started talking about technical details, well, Austria is not part of the NATO, so there are some protocols we cannot share with them. And we can share it with Croatia, but Croatian MOD is not co-financing the project. So a lot of questions. It's very difficult because some of the member states are part of the NATO, some are part of the European Union, and then we all protect our national sovereignty. So if I go to quantum, we have now, for I think a week or 2, we have a national quantum strategy here in Slovenia. We have something at EU level, and we have something at NATO level. So things get very complicated, and I will shorten my answer because I believe they have a lot to add. The problem is that regarding the industry entering into defense, what we experienced is that they don't really realize that in defense there are some member states who are not our friends. NATO is very clear here. We have 2022 the document who says there are 4 countries. It's Russia, it's Iran, it's North Korea, and it's China. And if you're working with them, well, you have problem working with us. And to be really honest, if you're thinking about getting into defense industry, and if you're thinking about working with Americans, if you have something from China, it is a problem and it will get worse. And my personal remark, it's not from the MOD, the things will not change with the administration. I think you can agree with me. At the European level, we are more open for cooperation with those countries, but nevertheless, things are not getting easier to cooperate. So, thank you.
So I don't have a particular answer on your question, Marco. So I from the perspective of the soldier or commander, we were trained to have always plan B. So the things are changing on the battlefield. So what commanders expected is to have reliable flow in, to have capability. So from doctrine, and things are changing. We can see each day. So what the plan B could be. So whom we are trust. The trust is something. But we have solutions, but those solutions are not implemented yet. It takes time. Why? It takes time. So, and in hybrid warfare, we don't understand that war will be won by soldiers. So governments should start understand what should happen for the feasible future. I don't have answer, Marco. So it's what we will give to our sons to fight the freedom if needed. This is the question. And some generals are, they are very near thinking that war is taking place. So thank you.
We have started with sovereignty, if I'm not wrong. Or
Sorry?
we have started with sovereignty, if I'm not wrong.
Sovereignty.
Okay.
Yeah.
More or less. Okay. Now I have to go back to my last slide here, and a bit trying to answer to Andrea. I would say that in my case, sovereignty would be having the knowledge to build such a device and having this knowledge locally. And this is so it's not, it's great, of course, it's great to have a device, because the device is some kind of proof that you have this knowledge, and this tick that you get at the end from NATO, from SICAN, from whoever really says that, yes, the device is built as it should be. But yeah, the important thing is, I would say, local knowledge to be able to do something like that. Why? Because if in some kind of, let's say, some critical situation, and I don't want to speculate too much here, but I built a relation with a producer, and producer built a relation with me. So I can go back to the producer, I can discuss, I can do, okay, not whatever I want, but I can search for a solution with a producer. And that's extremely important. So that would be my answer.
My thinking would be as follows. I think it's important mindset. I will give an example. Matej and myself are part of SIGRE. I don't know how many people knows that, but this is an organization of power utilities, global. And one of the key areas is ICT, cybersecurity, and telecommunications, because those systems have everything of this, and even separated, even with certain specifics. We organized in January this year a workshop inviting very, let's say, different people coming from power utility, coming from national, let's say, governmental institutions. Mr. Dobran Božić had a very good keynote at the beginning about the hybrid war. And my impression is that people sitting there, they were all aware of this. So I think that in power utilities, the awareness is much higher. I'm not sure about, or don't have, let's say, so much communication with defense people, but I believe that it will be the same situation, because what I would like to say is that this didn't start yesterday. It started 10 years ago, and it takes time. When we are talking about the, let's say, the top managers, they need to be aware of this. They don't have to say cybersecurity is not my issue. It is. Now with NIS2 and Slovenian ZINF N1, this is really a case. So what we are trying and will be doing also in the future is to strengthen this awareness with different kind of activities, like from university to industry to these events like this, or even other events. So we need to change mindset, because what we hear even today is that this cannot happen to me. Of course can happen. And more you will say this, it's more likely it will happen. Because someone will find you, because you are too cocky, and he will try. So that's my thinking here.
So, if I may, I will a little bit disagree with you. So, awareness is not enough. So, I am aware that, I can get heart attack, but I am not running every day. So, what is important is the culture. So, to do what we have to do each day, not only on the annual exercise. So, this is what has to be changed, is the culture. Awareness is unfortunately not enough. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, how evolution works, we learn from our mistakes, and I hope we learn from some of the mistakes, and that will bring us further. If, for example, if we go a little bit behind, for example, like COVID, what was the problem with COVID? To find the mask, which are not very technical, because nobody in Europe was producing it. Yeah, so learning from that phase. Now we have a war. I was walking around around the fair before, and there's one Slovenian startup companies. They're let's say trying to do or working in the suicidal drones. What is their biggest issue is? They cannot get the batteries. It says we have 500 batteries, and we cannot get the motors for the drones. Because of China, the export, and they are now selling it. So here we are. So I think that also, as you said, that this kind of war or special situation or a special operation has, whatever you call it, will make us, to think about the things that, we also, if we're talking about sovereignty and looking, because we have the same problem with the munitions production and something else. So we learn from that mistakes, and, we see that some of the things, not just learn or to know how to do it, but we have to do it also here, not send blueprints and schedules and the software and the projects to China, but also maybe this is kind of self-reflection to do here. Maybe it's not cheaper. It's not going to be cheaper, but maybe that's will help us in the future to not make the same mistakes.
I absolutely agree with the previous commentary. I believe it's not important just to have the know-how, but also the capacity to build things, be it in the IT, OT, or any other domain. But I'd maybe like to focus more on the IT and the cloud aspect that we've been discussing in the beginning, where I believe we've kind of reached a stage or a state of the so-called digital feudalism, where a couple of biggest companies globally control, with the largest market shares, a majority of services that we use every day. And it makes absolutely no economic sense to start to develop these services in-house or in our nations. So we're going to have to change that. But the reason these companies were able to obtain that market share is in the first place because of the economic environment they were built in. And don't get me wrong, public funding is critical. But until we match it with private investment and build a European-wide ecosystem for investments that can match those of other powerful nations to prevent the brain drain of every unicorn going to the United States. Until we do that in an economic sense, we're probably not going to be able to build our solutions that are European and that we can rely and regulate on.
Thank you. Now I would conclude this panel. There are 3 minutes. We are 3 minutes earlier, which makes us very popular. Which since we ended earlier, but if some of the panelists has anything to add, please do so.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just one, because you're mentioning, the cloud providers. Because if there is enough pressure, we've seen now with the Microsoft cloud, there is an Azure and everything. But since there was a lot of pressure also regarding the Europe, now Microsoft is shifting a little bit, so you can have your own Azure, or you have it. So if there is a little bit pressure, there are like good causes why to do it. Also the big ones are going to change. But if there is no pressure, they're going to go their way. So definitely maybe moving that direction, or a little bit pressuring from all sides, not just like corporates, but also the governments, also the military things, it might change. But definitely it's going to take a little bit. These changes are not from today to tomorrow, but they're going to happen.
But the pressure is also on the other side,
Yes, I agree with your commentary in part. I think regulation is good, just not in extensive amount, not to stifle the innovation. But we've also seen contrary examples of malicious compliance of particular companies dividing their services and offerings between the US and the European region based on the regulatory requirements. So you don't end up getting the same service. And even still, if it's deployed on-premise in Europe, it's still not your technology. So I think there are multiple aspects to approaching this solution.
Yes. Okay. So if no further questions are from the audience, I would like to thank the panelists. Please give them an applause. And I would like to thank you, the audience, to stick with us for this almost a little more than 2 hours, and hopefully you'll learn something interesting. If not, then it's your problem. Thank you.